Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Fireside Chat with a retail expert. I'm Caitlin Allen, your host and SVP of Market at Simbi. And today it is my distinct pleasure to speak with a woman of deep accomplishment and expertise, Marybeth Hayes. Marybeth, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Caitlin.
Of course, it's our pleasure. Let's get started with a little bit about you. You have led merchandising at some of the world's largest retailers, Mary Beth, including marketing and supply chain when you were working in China. And then
Yep.
you've also agreed to serve on multiple boards. And so I'm curious as you look back across your esteemed and illustrious career, what experiences would you say most shaped how you think about leadership in retail today?
Okay. I think I would cite two things. Is One is I started my career with Hanes brand, what is now Hanes brands. So I was on the supplier side, and then I switched to retail, which is what I have loved. And they're very different, but they're complementary roles in brand marketing and product development on a supplier side, and then in merchandising and retail. So I really loved trying to speak both those languages. That was one.
Mhm.
And then I think understanding that leading in retail, leading your teams in retail is really about paving the way for your teams just to do the right thing for the customer. Okay, so sometimes it means going to bat for some capital, right? A capital expenditure on some fixturing, lighting in the Walmart beauty section, for instance. The customer needed it, the stores needed it, and that did get done. Or little things like some signage or something like that. And your merchants who are so immersed in their categories, with the advice of store operators, because you need to encourage them to get out. They usually know what the right thing to do is the customer, and it's your responsibility as a leader to try to get them that.
I love that. So a lot of focus on the basics, which is way easier said than done.
I have a saying, never get bored with the basics. Like the bright, shiny object, the cool thing can come along, but you buy stuff, you ship stuff, you sell stuff for a good price. If you
Mhm.
forget or get bored with any of those basics, I don't care how fancy anything else is, like, you're in trouble. So never get bored with the basics.
It also reminds me of something else you've said before, which is that retail is attention to detail.
Yes, it is absolutely attention to detail. And I know we'll get into this further, but it's frustrating when you can't get the detail you need at the right time that you need it. So it's
Mhm.
part of why I'm so
Yes.
excited to be joining you.
Yes, me too.
Mhm.
Um, you were also an expat, Maripeth, at
Yes.
when you were at Walmart China, and I am curious how the global perspective that you acquired there shaped the way that you approach thinking about the basics, thinking about attention to detail, as well as consumer trends and retail strategy overall.
Mhm. Um, Being an expat is one of the most exhilarating, and at the same time, like, difficult situations to put yourself in. And they
Mhm.
say that, after a certain age, like 6 or something like that, there are a few things in life that can truly change you fundamentally as a person. And on that list is living in another culture. So I'm a big proponent of it. It opens your brain and opens the world. But what I learned in China, and I also worked for 6 months in India, earlier with Lowe's Home Improvement, is that you've got to meet your customer where they need you. Okay, and
Mm.
in China, which is where what we consider organized retail, it's still developing in many ways. I mean, the majority of Chinese still buy, a lot of their produce and meat in the local wet market, right? So organized retail is still developing. So, like, one great example I had about meeting a customer where they are is I kept wondering why, like, Sprite kept showing up near wine in the store. And it's because now this is 2015 to 2017, I was there. It may have changed by now, but it was just wine drinkers there would often mix it with Sprite. Well, you've got to meet the customer where they are at that moment. But at the same time, my team, we realized we didn't have like wine glasses. We're a whole new category. This is for Walmart China. So we did a planogram of that, but we added a sign at the top to explain what wines went in which glasses, because that's just, not a deep source of knowledge. So again, trying to meet the customer where they are at the same time as show them more about the categories that they're expressing interest in. So
Hmm.
you really have to step back and check your assumptions as an arrogant American when you're working in other areas, and slow down and understand their culture and perspective. They have 5,000 years of it, and culture really will eat strategy every day. So
It will.
learn a
Maybe you
lot.
can talk to my husband about living abroad. I would really like to do it at some point in my life, and he's already done it, so he has less urgency about it.
Okay, okay. It's amazing. It is amazing. So
It sounds like it.
yeah,
I'm curious too what the through lines, across countries, across geographies, or even categories that there are to building a durable business that's
yeah.
focused on the customer, and how that evolved as your work took you to these different countries and from Hanes to Walmart to Sam's Club, et cetera.
Yeah, great question. I go back to our basics, and it is um simple to say and really, really hard to do, but you have got to have on your best sellers, high velocity items, high in units or dollars, you've got to have like 99.9% in stock. You need to approach perfection on that. And it's so difficult. It's like, okay, this is a new bestseller. Is it stocked in every store? It's very fundamental. It's really hard to execute. So
Mhm.
that is a through line, like you said, any business that you're in, are you keeping the pipeline full? Like, are you even in the position to sell more, right? So that's number one. And then I think having a thoughtful range of, we talked a lot about OPP, good, better, best, premium.
Mhm.
So, as appropriate for the category, larger categories or categories that offer a lot of different features at different price points, you may have every one of those. Most categories, you're going to have two or three of those price point categories, and they've got to be thoughtful and have a clear value proposition around them. I mean, even spinach has it, right? You've got spinach, and then you've got packaged washed spinach, and then you've got packaged washed organic spinach. I mean, you've got
Mhm.
a range, and offering customers the choice of what's possible in a thoughtful way while keeping your SKUs reasonably under control is super important. And then I think the third key to success, again, in any business that I've worked in, retail or supplier side, it's, what's the next new thing? Consumers respond to newness. It's why merchants love what they do. Everyone gets excited about new product, and not like innovation where you change a scent, okay, on a
Mhm.
candle or something like that, but real difference, visible difference that the customer can size up in about 6 seconds, and see if they want to engage with it. So, testing items, partnering and testing items, partnering with suppliers, further back in the supply chain, sign the NDA and work with them on an exclusive launch or something like that. So make when the customers come in a store or they go online, there's something fresh and new and exciting in front of them. Some are going to fail. And I used to tell my merchants, if you have a year, we did this in evals. Hey, what was your biggest failure, this year? And merchants who really don't have an answer for that, like they're playing it safe. They're not trying hard enough. And it's funny because over the years I saw a correlation that the very best merchants, the highest achieving merchants, like always had some disaster that they had to clean up that year because they took a risk, right? Um, so mixing that art and science and stepping out a little bit and trying it.
I love that. Interesting too that the risk is was associated with the high performers.
Yep. Yep.
Bringing maybe some of those that commentary to today's industry from the perspective of consumer preferences, Mary Beth,
Hmm.
what what do you see going on in today's landscape that most reminds you of some of the pivotal changes from your time when you led categories like the consumables and health and wellness business at Walmart?
Okay. I think the era of the consumer continues at a level that's even intensifying. So back in
Mhm,
the Mad Men era, the 50s and the 60s, right, it was the era of the brands, the great brands. Procter and Gamble developed the basically the entire function, the entire career of brand management, right? And then like 70s, 80s, 90s, it was the era of the big retailers. Kmart, Target, Walmart reach scale and become powerful. And then, we get past the 2000 point, and we're very solidly in the era of the consumer.
mhm.
Um, and I think it started with the online revolution. I was an early adopter of Amazon. I remember reading about it in a flight magazine and on a business trip sometime and thinking, I can order my books and CDs and they'll deliver to my home. I mean, this is amazing. I was so early that like Jeff Bezos used to send me a Christmas note and a little coffee mug thing that long ago. Um, and then we see perishable food delivery, diaper delivery, very margin short category for retailers. But people started realizing, okay, if we give the consumer what she needs, we'll figure out the profit later. You start seeing things like that. Walmart just started delivering pharmacy with people's, the food delivery. It's incredible.
Mhm.
So now what I see is, and I started to see a little bit of it when I was in the consumables and health and wellness role at Walmart, is demand for clarity of ingredients, right? And the rise of, there's an app called Yucca, like the root vegetable, Yucca. They're French. They have about 21 million users in France, and they're adding millions. I think they're up to 20, maybe 30 million users in the US now. And what you can do is with your phone, you scan the product and they have it rated on ingredients, and it's sort of a red, yellow, green, and they tell you why it was rated like that. And I was at an advisor summit, and like people are saying my kids don't buy anything without running it through that app, right?
Mm.
So that is uh it's being very much led by consumers. They care about sustainability and they care what they're putting in and on their bodies. So that's a very big deal now, and it's only going to get bigger.
It is a big deal now. How do
Mhm.
you see we've got parts of the ecosystem like the big global, online players, we've
Mhm.
got, more regional, mid-tier
Yep.
retailers. Where do you see each of them playing, and how do you see them navigating those kind of pressures and priorities successfully?
Right. I think scale is a fantastic thing. Walmart and the Amazon plus Whole Foods sort of give the clicks and the bricks. Now they've got the warehouses, they've got the store frontage to do that and to ship items in quickly, easy return. That's gone really well, which puts it's very challenging for the regionals. I actually
Mhm,
saw the regionals like Lowe's Foods in my area, North Carolina, did a great job really early. I'm talking 2000 and wow, 8 maybe, you could go online and, and put your grocery order together and swing by the store and get it. I mean, that was a really early mover. Um, but now what I see, what I observe the regionals and smaller folks doing, they're really leaning in to consumer preference for local goods grown locally. They don't necessarily want leafy vegetables flown, across the country. And I think that's a wonderful way of that difference. The larger retailers can, operate with scale, and they're very good at global and moving products around the world and around the country. And the regional folks can really lean into local makers and local farmers and support that local economy. And I see them playing that pretty well, at least in the area that I live. So I've enjoyed watching that. I think a lot of times the local slash regional um, uh, retailers know about teams and like niche like hobbies and things that people have, and they can lean in a little with a better sense of, should they stock this college here, that college there. That's it's just hard when you're large and don't live in the area. That's hard for a very large player to do.
I would say that those observations are also true for here in California as well. We recently
Mhm.
moved from Los Angeles, so I'm thinking of both Northern and Southern California as I say that. I also have seen opportunity. Technology democratizes a bit of the big player kind of experience, particularly when it frees up store teams' time to interact with shoppers. And I think we'll probably see an emergence of the concept of the favorite store in town,
Mhm.
where the local teams, to your point, can focus on local produce. They can focus on knowing a little bit about each shopper. Do their kids have sports games, or
Yep.
do their families have allergies or what have you? Where the level of personalization from a local produce perspective, and then also the level of service is really much more possible.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely agree. In my area, I mentioned Lowe's Foods, and
Mhm.
um, they have a local, I believe it's a local coffee shop that has a store in store. And then they've got this seating area, and every time my husband and I are in there, either one of us, there's a book club meeting, there's someone playing mahjong, it's just, and they welcome that.
Yeah.
And they also have the greatest bagged popcorn on the planet. But they've decided to take that path, and I see the local community responding to it. Now, the majority of our shop, like the routine shop for core items, it's Walmart Neighborhood Market, right? But they just fill different needs in our shopping basket. That's a hyper local example, but
Yeah, it's well
I think
said.
there's room for everybody. So,
To specialize, to your point.
mhm.
I also believe we'll see a reimagination or reinvention of the retail operating model within those kind of trends we've talked about, as well as the advent and the ubiquitization of technology too. And I'm curious, so we've talked prior about what I'll call the three kind of traditional or classic data sources within the retail tech stack, being supply chain and point of sale, and then consumer engagement. Whether the consumer engagement refers to loyalty, or the actual app or something of that
Mhm.
nature. And I'm curious, we've spoken as well about this concept of a fourth data pillar being the shelf, that area where there's not visibility today, and the point at which consumers make purchase decisions, when they're standing there at the shelf. What's exciting to you about the digitization of the shelf within that context?
Oh gosh, like so exciting. I mean, this is like retail merchant nirvana that we're talking about now. It truly is. Because if you think about it, like supply chain, what got shipped in, POS, what got sold, okay, and then um you either beg the store to do a cycle count, which they don't have time for that, or you wait 6 months, like Walmart does inventory every 6 months, to truly know what you have on hand because there's damage and shrink. So you're flying in the blind literally every day except the day after the last inventory. I mean, this is because that's practically an abacus. I mean, this has not changed significantly in hundreds of years. We got faster at it because Tel's on guns and now we have apps on phones and things like that. But the drudgery of it and the question mark is still there. So we can now fix that. So now I feel like, you know, the on-shelf truth that we know can be mixed with, from the customer, that third pillar, the app scanning and everything like that. And we can start to combine those and understand, did the customer substitute because it actually wasn't there, or was it there and she
Hmm.
switched brands? If someone switches from Crest to Colgate, it's rare for people to switch toothpaste brands, like something's going on. I mean, just the possibilities it opens up are huge. And now, um, some of the problem with retail data has absolutely been you're just overwhelmed with it. I mean, I spent most of my career getting 80 pages every day of data that I arranged in a little notebook with the tabs, and I could find the answer I needed, but it was always looking in the rearview mirror, right? Um, so now, I mean, that's just completely changing, and AI can help us understand how to think differently about retail. So I hope you can tell I'm super excited about it.
I can, and I would feel probably even more excited myself if I had had the experience with 80-page printouts for
Right,
fillers.
exactly, exactly.
Where do you see that shelf intelligence having the biggest potential for impact? Is it in somewhere like assortment planning or planogram compliance, or is it more on the side of omnichannel execution and, and maybe even aligning retailers and their brand partners, something different?
Right, basically, the answer is yes to all of that. There's probably 2 areas that just personally, through my lived experience, excites me the most. It's planogram execution, there's one, and then it is prioritizing labor in the stores, like smart labor in the stores. So for the stores, it's separating, critical out of stocks from, um, it can wait 4 hours, or it can wait for the next shift, or the overnight, team or whatever. I also think that it's going to make testing um, easier, and that so you can go in and ask a team, could you move these items on this planogram, verify that it got done quickly, and it'll help you read those results and helping stores and merchants fine tune presentations for customers. So I can see where it is like it's an execution tool, and maybe through AI we even get to suggest, based on what it sees in the stores, where things could go. So I just think super exciting.
Yeah, completely. It's really a posture, to your point, of shifting from reactive problem solving at best
Mm-hmm.
to predictive, and immediately responsive,
Right,
strategic decisions. Yeah.
right, right.
I'm curious, you said it on many boards, as I mentioned, the front of
Mhm.
the conversation. How are these topics coming up in your board conversations about AI and automation in the store? And how would you say that shelf visibility fits into the discussions at hand?
Yeah. Um, I think at board level, we're interested in AI, primarily in running what ifs in R&D, in advertising, and the like. Speaking as a retailer, what um, I think that if stores can provide real-time, best-in-class execution and prove it, right, with the data, with Simbi, they should be able to seek to be rewarded for that. And I'm not talking about I want 10% less. I'm talking about the suppliers being willing to lean in with a retailer. And for instance, maybe it's they get the launch early, or it's an
Mhm.
exclusive product design or preferred launch partner. And they can lean in with the confidence that if they're dropping advertising dollars behind it, the product's actually going to be there when the customer goes, right? So I think this is a wonderful way of bringing, retailtainment, if you want to say that, or newness, to store shelves in a much more efficient manner. And then there's not going to be a lot of fighting in the back about was the product even out, because you know the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
So I think
That makes a lot
retailers
of
that
sense.
grab onto this and start thinking about it as a tool to enhance supplier partnerships to get the absolute best from their suppliers, is there's going to be some first mover wins here.
Mhm. Mhm. It raised
Yeah,
the water level for all involved because it really is an ecosystem-wide need to serve the shopper better and empower the
exactly.
store team. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Marybeth, I know that you worked previously with our SVP of Strategy and Client Success, Ben Bond at Kearney, where you're a senior advisor, and
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about Ben or the team he has or the work that they do in the world. And so I would imagine that that was part of the reason you were open to talking with us
Yeah.
in the first place. But I'm curious what stood out to you about Simbi that made you want to lean in and join us as part of our strategic advisory board.
Yeah. Um, I actually had a executive recruiter tell me one time that, well, retail's dead, meaning stores. Stores are dead. And that could not be further from the truth. The fact is consumers really, they still love going in a physical store. Their occasions for doing that may be a little different. So yes, we see
Mhm,
store closings and some things like that, but there are retailers that recognize the importance of the physical shelf and recognize the opportunities by deploying technology, to get it, yes, more efficient, but be better prepared for for the customer, for the consumer when they do walk in. Um,
mhm,
so I think that um, that's just going to make the stores better and better. So it was nice for me to see technology and AI being deployed against the stores. And it's not like just a tool that you only get to interface with online. So I'm passionate about stores and shopping. So when Ben called, I was like, oh, I love this. And then when I read before I spoke to Ben and the rest of the team, and I found out that our robot's name is Tally. Well, like the deal was done because Tally's my maiden middle name. It's a family name. So I was like, sometimes you get a signal. I took the hint. So I'm just,
I love it. I
you know,
love it. Very clear signal to your point. Well, and I
so
think to your implicit points as well, 90% of commerce still happens in brick and mortar. And,
exactly.
you called it out earlier. It runs on a very fragile system of data created by the supply chain and point of sale systems and, loyalty and digital apps that provide extremely important information, but they don't capture the shelf. And that's why we see, I think it was 5% of margin and 5.5% of revenue annually is lost because of misplaced items and pricing errors, et cetera, that could be
Yep.
fixed simply with that technology there to support the way that people prefer to shop.
Yeah, absolutely. And the online experience isn't great.
Mhm.
We're in our apartment in New York, and I need clothes hangers, and my husband loves to do errands and stuff, but I was just gonna show him on the Target app what's in the local store here, and I could not get it to pick up the zip code, and it's like literally 3 blocks and not even an avenue over. I couldn't figure it out because I was going to send him to get exactly what I wanted, knowing that it was in stock. And he just, had to just go to the store and figure it out himself. It worked out fine, but all the online is not it's not foolproof. And so, being in a store, he's like, "Oh, you described what you needed. They had it right there. I knew what you needed. Flocked hangers, and it worked." So we can't forget that it's still the majority of retail. They're best together, I think. Digital and physical stores, but we cannot forget about the importance of the physical store.
Very well said.
Yeah.
We have a question from the audience, and then my next question actually is on a
Okay.
similar topic, so I'll combine the two.
Okay.
So, Simbi's approach to partnerships and integrations and how that is beneficial for working across the ecosystem, be it retailers or CPGs or brand partners. I'm curious, one, how you see that as a differentiator for the solutions that Simbi brings to market. And then the question from the audience is more on data monetization and,
Mhm.
the excitement that you expect that suppliers will have for paying for that. It relates a little bit to what you said earlier.
Yes. So, um, suppliers are going to be very, very eager for this data, and they're
Mhm.
they're getting it somewhat by hiring service groups, to go in and check behind and things like that. So they're going to be eager for it. Certainly, monetization opportunity. I think like how it's used is going to be a point of discussion, because having a supplier send a note, to a store department manager, like that could get crazy kind of quick. But I think the ability to understand your actual sell through when you knew it was on the shelf,
Mhm.
that if that makes sense. You can get an actual rate of sale, right? Um, and capture those lost sales in a smart way. And the retailers will appreciate the analysis that great suppliers are going to be able to provide on that. So they'll be taking in the information, probably throwing some AI and some of their personnel against it and saying, wait, maybe we do need to send down this product, double this product. You can tell that somewhat through POS now, but you never really know how much it was on the shelf or not. So it's almost like the denominator changes. So, Simbi helps you see it not only in numbers, but images. I think that's going to be really helpful. I
Yeah.
think what I really like about the way that Simbi is thinking about the retailer is holistically, right? It's bringing in representatives from supply chain, from merchandising, and from store operations, um, bringing everyone to the table to discuss opportunities, because this is a rare, in my experience, rare technology that benefits multiple functional areas. Um, I think initially it could be, well, it needs to be a store ops decision because they have to host it. Like, absolutely, right? Um, do the merchants intend to use this as a got you tool? Okay, no, that's
Mhm.
not what this is about, So getting everyone at the table and showing how it's going to benefit all these functions and setting up systems to run it. I bet after trials, a store manager is going to go, you can't have Tally back. Like, sorry, she's mine. And I think we're going to see that more and more. I mean, finally have united discussions about what's best for the customer and what does the store need, other than kind of the squeakiest wheel gets the grease. So,
Thank you for those kind words. And we do
sure.
hear that from clients all the time that they'll Kim Anderson, the head of store operations at Schnucks, has said several times that her team would tackle her if she took Tally away. So
Yeah,
you were almost verbatim there.
there you go. There you go.
Let's maybe close out with a zooming out a bit, looking at the global context and a bit towards
Mhm.
the future again. What global market lessons would you advise US-based retailers to think about as they are reimagining their retail operating models with things like in-store technology and data?
Yeah. I'll be really blunt, and this goes back to your first questions about being an expat and career and everything.
Mhm.
The US has got to get over the we're the biggest, therefore we're the best, no one can teach us anything, the not invented here syndrome, because markets that are still developing with organized retail have an advantage. They get to enjoy the leapfrog effect. Um, like example from India years ago. When cell phones were introduced, they just skipped right over the old analog technology and went straight to digital. Like the US had to, those were two infrastructures, right, that had to be put in place. So in that vein, Chinese customers are much further down the curve than the US is on shopping online, or I should say shopping digitally.
Mhm.
I believe it was Korea. They had, and this is 7, 8 years ago. Someone tried a large screen. It's like a life-size screen with a digital shelf there, and you could pick which shelf you needed, standing there waiting on your train, right? And then put your Prel or whatever it is in your digital basket and complete your shop in a kind of clicks meets bricks sort of way, and then it would be delivered to your home. um, the 1 hour delivery concept, mobile payment capability. When I was in China 2015, starting 2015, like no one carried cash or cards. Like everything was literally Alipay. That they just, completely leapfrogged, and Europe's ahead of the US on that. Here we still carry cards, just as a backup, because not everyone has tap to pay. So I think now what I'm seeing happen is it's even more of an intersection of social media and shopping, right? You can buy here like on Pinterest, but they're way ahead of us in China on, for instance, buying on TikTok has really become much more of a store.
Your comments remind me of many that I have heard from Deb Weinswig at Coresight Research, one of the leading research firms in our sector. So
I love Deb,
very
yeah.
interesting points. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about the world where shelf intelligence or shelf digitization is fully adopted, I'm curious uh, how would the day-to-day of retail evolve? What would
Mhm.
change in that kind of paradigm?
Yeah, I see the agentic shopping really coming up, which is a little more, digital, but
Yeah.
you tell someone, I need to spend this for a birthday gift. I need to get it to here. Her favorite color is pink, blah, 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 blah. And an agent goes out and searches for that for you, recommends the gift, completes the purchase process, and makes sure it gets delivered, and it can go to multiple retailers. So we're talking about that a lot at Carney, a lot. Amazon stuck their toe in the water in April with their Buy For Me service. And I think shopping by these agents is going to absolutely explode. Amazon needed to move first because we've all heard the statistic about how many people literally start, they almost use it like a search engine like Google, right? They'll start searching on Amazon. Well, they had to protect their traffic. So of course they're going to move first. I think eventually we're going to see your computers able to give you that almost shelf-like experience by hologram, like anywhere you are, right? And be able to shop like that. But it's still a hologram. I mean, someone's got to fulfill it, and you may want to go touch things. A lot of people like to touch their apparel. I personally do most of my shopping online, but I heard a customer the other day in a store, and yes, I still stalk people in retail stores and listen, snoop. But they talked about, no, I gotta feel stuff, but before I buy it. So a lot of research still to be done on,
Mhm.
before they go to the retail store. So
Yeah, that's all amazing points. I think that the boundary, to your point, between the home and the store is gonna just possibly disappear, but definitely
right,
winnow. I know I personally can't wait till an agent can look in my fridge and tell me a menu that I could prepare based on
Oh,
what's in my fridge.
right, right, exactly. Yes, you're not playing fridge roulette, right?
Exactly, especially towards the end of my week.
Yeah, exactly, and then you say, "Well, no, I need something with more protein." Okay, modify like this. I mean, that's it's gonna be great. I mean, I just used ChatGPT to help me plan. I had a granny sleepover with 3-year-old and 5-year-old granddaughters. It was just girls. They have 2 brothers, so it was just the girls, and, I'm not particularly good with small children. I never had kids of my own, so, I was scared to death, and ChatGPT was like gave me suggested a timeline and what activities and when they need to rest and what to feed them for snacks. Remember to cut the grapes. I mean, it was amazing. So
Oh,
this is like, yeah, what movie appropriate for that age. And so but that kind of help is coming to consumers. It's going to leave them time to do other things. There's going to be new hobbies emerge, new interests. I mean, it's changing the way we live. So
absolutely, and I actually think you just answered my last question, but
oh
I'll ask it anyways. I'm
okay.
curious, what are you most excited about as you think about the road ahead for retail? And, if you had one message for retail executives and boards, what would it be?
Sure, sure. I think I made like the bold prediction about the, holographic shelves and everything. I think by 2030, we're going to see widespread use of electronic shelf labels, which will get all legislators freaked out. And there's going to be studies about, are people discriminating on price to customers? But we'll get through it. But we're going to see that truly seamless checkout, particularly for the customers that, have that consent to the retailer's app and everything like that. Much tighter anti-theft protection. We're going to have RFID or other identifiers, and we're going to know where every item is in the store, and UPC codes are going to be serialized. So you're going to know how many of that item you have and where it is. Robots restocking shelves, it's there's or other repetitive tasks, I think, could be automated. Um, but I think what excites me so much about Simbi, when I was talking to you all, a lot of my background is in items that are just traditionally extremely difficult for technology to deal with. High shrink, like beauty, um, apparel, which just Walmart has rolled out RFID on apparel, and it was amazing the book inventory versus reality, when they got that put in. So I kind of came in a skeptic, right? I'm like, what about these really difficult categories? And Simbi Robotics had thought so far about, okay, we know there's some categories that are going to need fixed camera, right? There's some that we're going to need wands and RFID compatibility. And that's what that's what I went, okay, they've really thought through a complete category solution that I think is going to have a huge impact. And just,
Mhm.
one version of the truth, um, I would say to fellow retailers and suppliers that like that one version of the truth is finally here. Like the finger pointing can stop. Like embrace it, jump on this. It's fantastic opportunities.
Well, this has been invigorating and very
Thank
educational and also
you.
deeply gratifying. So thank you so much for the time and just for your expertise that you lend to us every day.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's been very fun. And to the audience, thank you for being here too. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day as well.